August 3, 1943. U.S. Army Field Hospital, outskirts of Nicosia, Sicily. The air inside the canvas tent is thick with antiseptic and heat. Flies circle lazily beneath the sagging khaki roof. Outside, artillery thunders in the distant hills where the U.S. 7th Army pushes the Germans toward Messina. Inside, rows of iron cots stretch beneath the dim light, each occupied by a man who has already seen too much. Boots crunch against gravel. General George S. Patton Jr., commander of the 7th Army, steps through the flap without warning. Polished helmet, ivory-handled revolvers strapped low on his hips, riding breeches crisp despite the Sicilian dust, his jaw tight, eyes sharp and restless. Behind him trail Major General Jeffrey Keyes and a cluster of staff officers who immediately sense the temperature of the room has changed. Every medic stiffens, every wounded man tries to sit up straighter. Patton moves slowly down the line of beds like an inspector surveying damaged equipment. He asks questions, sharp, abrupt. What outfit? Where were you hit? How many krauts did you get? His voice cuts through the heavy air. Then he stops. On a cot near the center lies Private Charles H. Cool of the 26th Infantry Regiment. He is not bandaged, no blood seeps through gauze. His uniform is intact, though stained with sweat. His hands tremble slightly against the thin blanket. Patton's eyes narrow. "What's the matter with you?" the general demands. Cool swallows. His voice shakes. "I guess I can't take it, sir. I can't stand the shelling anymore." The words hang in the tent like smoke. Shelling, artillery shock, what doctors have been quietly calling battle fatigue, what the British once called shell shock, invisible wounds that leave no blood but fracture the mind. Patton's face darkens. "You mean you're yellow?" he snaps. The surrounding soldiers freeze. A nurse lowers her clipboard slowly, eyes wide. Cool's voice cracks. "No, sir. It's my nerves." Patton steps closer, so close the leather of his boots nearly touches the cot frame. "Your nerves?" he spits. "You're just a goddamned coward." The general's white-gloved hand flashes. A sharp crack explodes in the tent. A slap echoes off canvas and metal cots alike. Cool's head snaps sideways. For a moment, there is only silence, thick, stunned, absolute. Patton leans in, face inches from the trembling private. "I won't have these brave men think there's a coward in this hospital," he growls. "Send him back to the front." Medics stand frozen. No one breathes. Patton turns sharply, spurs clinking, and storms out of the tent as suddenly as he entered. Outside, the Sicilian sun blazes overhead. Trucks rumble. Wounded men arrive from the front. The grind wars on. Inside the tent, the silence lingers long after he is gone. But this is not the slap that will nearly destroy him. That comes 4 days later. August 7th, 1943. Another hospital, another inspection. This time, the patient is Private Paul G. Bennett of the 30th Infantry Regiment. Dust clings to his boots. His face is pale beneath grime. He has been pulled from the line after days under relentless German artillery fire near Troina, one of the bloodiest fights of the Sicilian campaign. Patton approaches his bed. "What are you in here for?" he demands. Bennett looks up, exhausted eyes hollow. "It's my nerves, sir. I can't take it." The words are almost identical. So is the reaction. Patton erupts. "Nerves?" he bellows. "You're a goddamned coward." This time, the blow is harder. Witnesses will later say Patton struck him with his gloves, then grabbed him by the collar. The general's voice carries through the ward, laced with fury. "I won't have these cowardly bastards hanging around here when brave men are dying at the front." Doctors try to intervene. Patton wheels on them. "If you ever let another one like this stay in here, I'll have you sent to the front." The tent trembles with tension. Some wounded men stare in shock. Others lower their eyes. A few, hardened by combat, say nothing at all. Because Patton isn't just another officer. He is the symbol of American aggression in Europe, the man who believes speed, shock, and relentless pressure win wars, the man who demands courage, absolute, uncompromising courage from everyone under his command. But in that moment, in that sweltering Sicilian hospital, something fractures. Not just a soldier's dignity, not just the fragile understanding of psychological trauma in wartime, but Patton's own future. The slaps do not stay inside the tent. Nurses whisper, doctors file reports, staff officers exchange uneasy glances. Within days, word begins traveling up the chain of command, beyond Sicily, beyond the Seventh Army, all the way to General Dwight Eisenhower. And once it reaches him, the consequences will ripple across the Allied war effort. Because this isn't just about one general losing his temper. It's about morale, about leadership, about whether America's most aggressive battlefield commander has crossed a line that even war cannot excuse. The guns continue firing across Sicily. Messina will fall within weeks. The campaign will be declared a success. But inside Allied headquarters, a different battle is forming. A battle over discipline, over compassion, over whether George S. Patton Jr., the man many believe is essential to defeating Nazi Germany, can be trusted with command at all. August 16, 1943. Allied headquarters, Algiers. The Mediterranean light pours through tall windows, but inside the command room the mood is cold. General Dwight D. Eisenhower stands at a heavy wooden desk, a folder open before him. The paper inside is thin, creased from travel. Typed lines march down the page in neat military precision, but the content is anything but orderly. He reads it once, then again. Reports from medical officers, witness statements, the name, Lieutenant Colonel Charles B. Odom. The allegation, General George S. Patton struck hospitalized soldiers suffering from battle fatigue, called them cowards, ordered them back to the front. Eisenhower exhales slowly. He knows Patton's temperament, has known it for years. The flamboyance, the temper, the obsession with discipline, the belief that fear is a weakness to be crushed, not treated. But this is different. Outside, staff officers move briskly through corridors, carrying maps of Italy, the next objective. Plans are forming for Operation Avalanche, the invasion of mainland Europe through Salerno. Every experienced commander matters, and George Patton is not just experienced, he is effective. The Sicilian campaign, despite friction with the British and controversies over race to Messina, has been a military success. The Seventh Army moved fast, hit hard, broke through resistance that others believed would stall for months. But leadership is not just measured in territory gained, it's measured in trust. Eisenhower closes the folder and calls for his chief of staff. "Get me Patton," he says quietly. Days later, in a modest office in Sicily, George S. Patton stands at rigid attention while Eisenhower confronts him face to face. No theatrics, no raised voices, just two generals. Eisenhower speaks evenly. "George, did you strike those men?" Patton doesn't hesitate. "Yes," he answers. No apology in the word, just fact. Eisenhower studies him. "Why?" Patton's jaw tightens. "I will not tolerate cowardice in the United States Army." To Patton, the battlefield is simple: courage or collapse. He believes panic spreads faster than bullets, that one man shaking in a hospital bed can infect an entire division with fear. He sees himself as protecting morale. But Eisenhower sees something else. He sees newspaper headlines. He sees senators demanding investigations. He sees mothers reading that a U.S. general slapped a wounded soldier. Because while the public does not yet know, they will. War correspondents are everywhere in Sicily, and some of them were close enough to hear whispers. Eisenhower's voice hardens. "You will apologize," he says. The words land heavier than any reprimand. Patton's eyes flicker just for a second. An apology is humiliation, public contrition, an admission of wrongdoing. But Eisenhower continues. "You will apologize to those men, to the doctors, in front of the entire command." Silence. Patton nods stiffly. "Yes, sir." The apology tour begins. Hospital tents, medical wards, rooms heavy with disinfectant and quiet resentment. Patton stands before assembled staff and soldiers. His posture remains straight, but his voice is different now, controlled, measured. "I have learned that I was mistaken, an error of judgment." The words feel foreign in his mouth. Some soldiers accept it. Others don't. Doctors remain cold. Nurses avoid eye contact. But the matter does not end there, because Eisenhower makes another decision, one that cuts deeper than any public apology. Patton will not command the invasion of Italy. Operation Avalanche, the next great Allied assault, will go forward without him. Instead, command of the U.S. Fifth Army at Salerno goes to Lieutenant General Mark Clark. Patton, the aggressive spearhead of Sicily, is sidelined. Officially, the incident is kept quiet. Eisenhower suppresses formal court-martial proceedings. He understands Patton's value. Firing him outright would fracture American confidence and embolden critics who already question U.S. leadership. But the message is clear. There are limits. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, rumors slip past censorship. A radio correspondent mentions an unfortunate incident. A letter home references a general who lost his temper. By November 1943, columnist Drew Pearson broadcasts the story to millions of Americans. The words explode across living rooms from New York to Kansas City. A U.S. general slapped a wounded soldier suffering from shell shock. Outrage ignites. Letters flood Congress. Editorials question the Army's compassion. Parents of servicemen demand answers. Battle fatigue, once whispered about, is now front-page news. And at the center of it stands George S. Patton Jr., the man many believed untouchable. Inside his quarters, Patton reads the newspapers in silence. He has faced German panzers. He has outrun British generals to Messina. But this is different. This enemy cannot be outflanked. It is public opinion, and it may destroy him faster than any German division ever could. January 1944, Knutsford, England. Cold rain lashes against the windows of a quiet manor house commandeered by the U.S. Army. Inside, maps of Europe cover the walls, Normandy's jagged coastline outlined in grease pencil. Arrows point inland toward Caen, Saint-Lô, Paris. General George C. Patton stands alone before the largest map, but none of the arrows belong to him. Outside, American troops flood into southern England by the tens of thousands. Convoys of olive-drab trucks grind through narrow roads. Liberty ships unload tanks and ammunition along the docks. The greatest invasion force in history is assembling for Operation Overlord, D-Day. And Patton, arguably America's most aggressive field commander, has no army. Officially, he is on temporary assignment. Unofficially, he is radioactive. The slapping incidents still echo in Washington. Though Eisenhower shielded him from court-martial, the political damage lingers. General George Marshall in the War Department watches closely. Congress remains uneasy. The press has not forgotten. Patton knows it. He feels it in every order that doesn't come. Instead of leading divisions, he inspects training grounds, reviews drills, studies logistics, writes in his diary late into the night. "Eisenhower has failed me," he scribbles one evening, "yet I must obey." But Eisenhower has not abandoned him, because across the English Channel, German intelligence is watching. Adolf Hitler is convinced the main Allied invasion will strike at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between Britain and France. The Germans fortify it heavily. Concrete bunkers, coastal artillery, panzer reserves positioned nearby. The Allies need the Germans to believe that assumption, and they need a commander the Germans fear. They need Patton. Thus begins Operation Fortitude. In southeast England, inflatable tanks are erected in open fields. Fake landing craft made of plywood line quiet harbors. Phantom radio traffic crackles across carefully staged frequencies. Entire divisions that do not exist are positioned opposite Calais. At the center of it all, Lieutenant General George S. Patton, commander of the fictional 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG. German reconnaissance aircraft report his presence. Abwehr agents confirm it. To the Germans, Patton is not sidelined. He is poised to strike. The deception works. Even on June 6, 1944, as Allied forces storm the beaches of Normandy, Hitler hesitates to release panzer divisions from Calais. He is sure Patton's real blow is still coming. For weeks after D-Day, German High Command holds reserves in the wrong place. And though Patton commands nothing but ghosts, his reputation ties down entire German armies. But inside the man himself, frustration burns. He listens to reports from Omaha Beach, to news of brutal fighting around Saint-Lô. He studies casualty figures. He knows he could move faster, push harder, break through. Yet he waits. Every morning he dresses immaculately, polishes his helmet, adjusts the ivory grips on his Colt revolvers, because he believes the call will come. And in late July 1944, it finally does. Operation Cobra. American forces punch a hole through German lines near Saint-Lô. The front collapses. Chaos spreads among German units. Eisenhower needs speed. He needs exploitation. He needs aggression. He turns to Patton. On August 1, 1944, nearly 1 year after the hospital slaps, George S. Patton takes command of the U.S. Third Army. The exile is over. Within days, Third Army surges across France like a wildfire. Columns of Sherman tanks race through Brittany. German units disintegrate under relentless pressure.
Town after town falls with astonishing speed. Patton's philosophy of momentum, attack, pursue, never stop, proves devastatingly effective. By late August, Third Army has liberated vast swaths of France. The same man who once stood disgraced in a hospital tent now commands one of the most successful offensives in U.S. military history. But the shadow never fully disappears. Officers remember Sicily. Some politicians still distrust him. And Patton himself understands something new, something he did not fully grasp in that Sicilian heat. Courage is complicated. War wounds are not always visible, and leadership can elevate a man to legend or nearly end him in a single moment of fury. As autumn approaches and the Allied advance slows near the German border, another storm gathers, one that will test Patton again in ways he cannot yet imagine. The Battle of the Bulge is coming, and the general who once nearly lost everything will be called upon to save an entire front.
December 19th, 1945, Verdun, France. The sky is iron gray, heavy with snow. Staff cars crunch over frozen gravel as senior Allied commanders file into a cold stone barracks that once housed French troops in another war. Inside, a massive map of the Ardennes dominates the wall. German panzer divisions have smashed through American lines in Belgium. Entire units are surrounded. The town of Bastogne is encircled. The front is bulging inward, a massive dent in Allied lines. It is Hitler's last gamble in the West. General Dwight Eisenhower stands at the head of the table. Around him, Omar Bradley, Courtney Hodges, and George S. Patton. The room smells of wet wool and cigarette smoke. Eisenhower speaks bluntly. The Germans have attacked with at least 20 divisions. We need to relieve Bastogne. He turns to Patton. How soon can you attack north? It is a brutal question. Patton's Third Army is positioned facing east, driving toward the German border. To pivot an entire army 90 degrees in winter conditions, reroute fuel, ammunition, infantry, armor, would normally take weeks. The room waits. Patton does not hesitate. 3 days, he says. Some officers glance up sharply. 3 days? Snow blankets the roads, ice locks bridges. German forces are advancing fast. But Patton has already anticipated this possibility. His staff has contingency plans prepared, 3 separate attack options drafted before the meeting even began. He steps to the map, gloved finger tracing a line north towards Bastogne. We can disengage, pivot, and attack with 3 divisions within 72 hours. There is no bravado in his tone, only certainty. Eisenhower studies him. 1 year ago, Patton nearly destroyed his own career over 2 impulsive slaps in a hospital tent. Now the fate of thousands of surrounded American soldiers may depend on his speed. Make it happen, Eisenhower says. And Patton does. In one of the most remarkable operational maneuvers of the war, Third Army wheels north through snow and ice. Traffic control units work around the clock. Engineers clear frozen roads. Chaplains pray with soldiers before they march into blizzards. On December 26, 1945, exactly 7 days after that meeting in Verdun, lead elements of the 4th Armored Division punch through German lines and reach Bastogne. The siege is broken. American soldiers trapped in the freezing town see Sherman tanks emerging through the snow like steel phantoms. The momentum shifts. The German offensive stalls. And once again, Patton's relentless aggression proves decisive. But something has changed. Officers who once saw only fury now see calculation. The man who once struck soldiers for breaking under pressure now writes personal notes to wounded men. He visits hospitals again, But this time, the tone is different, measured, controlled. War has not softened him, but it has marked him. In the months that follow, Third Army drives deep into Germany. They cross the Rhine, liberate camps, capture tens of thousands of prisoners. Patton's legend grows. Yet the slap in Sicily never fully disappears from history. It remains a reminder that even brilliant commanders are human, that temper can threaten talent, that leadership in war requires not only aggression, but understanding. October 1945, Germany. The war in Europe is over. Patton, now military governor of Bavaria, faces new controversies, outspoken remarks, political friction. His blunt nature once again makes enemies. Then, December 9th, 1945, a quiet road near Mannheim. A collision with a U.S. Army truck. Neck broken. 12 days later, on December 21st, 1945, General George S. Patton Jr. dies in a military hospital in Heidelberg. He is buried among his soldiers in Luxembourg, at his own request. Rows of white crosses stretch across the hillside. At the center lies the man who once slapped a frightened private in a Sicilian hospital tent, the man who was nearly cast aside, the man who deceived Hitler, broke through France, and turned the tide in the Ardennes. History remembers him as bold, flawed, brilliant, dangerous, necessary. The slap heard around the world did not destroy George S. Patton, but it revealed the razor's edge between strength and arrogance, between discipline and cruelty, that every leader in war must walk. And in that sweltering hospital tent in August 1943, beneath buzzing flies and canvas walls, even a legend came dangerously close to falling.